I don't believe what I just saw.
This is one of the great moments in the history of baseball.
You believe in miracles? Yes!
Is this the dagger?
March 1st, on this day in sports. On today's episode, a legendary boxer retires. Is he the greatest of all time? A legendary baseball player retires. Is he the greatest of all time? The Ice Capades blow the roof off the place, literally. Rick Pitino buries himself in Boston. A historic first in figure skating by a dude from Oshawa. The NHL gets a new single-season scoring record. It's not Wayne Gretzky. A ref throws a broadcaster out of a game. And a play about Cubs fans you've never heard of and you'll never hear of again. Plus, special guest MLB.com writer Alyson Footer joins the podcast to judge our dork draft.
Oh man, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, you're going to stick around.
Yeah,
that was great. You almost made it to the end there. You were doing really great.
Thanks for pointing it out. You guys are being really helpful.
I wasn't going to mention podcast, but Matt obviously is going to now get up to podcast. You know, the great thing is, though, we are also sponsored by Cabin Barber and Gentleman Supply. That's where we're broadcasting from right now. There's a fridge that's humming. Catch the hums. Head on down to Cabin. We're proud to welcome Cabin Barber and Gentleman Supply on board as our sponsor. Whether you have difficult to cut hair, a challenging beard, a humming refrigerator, whatever it is, Cabin is the place to be. And it's not just an incredible barbershop, it's also a gentleman supply shop, meaning you can get everything from personal grooming products to fancy socks to Cabin-branded apparel. There are things in there that are made of leather that I'm not even quite sure what they do. Yeah. But I'm sure if you're a hip person.
Or a distinguished gentleman.
Thank you, that's a better term. You'll know what it is. You know why you need it. You get it at Cabin. We're desperately holding out for those Cabin sweatshirts.
Yep.
You know, we want to get one of those. Those are amazing.
And shout out to the Cabin guys who work here that greeted us when we came to. Couldn't have been nicer. Couldn't have been more helpful. They're going to be great when you come in and deal with them, too, I got to assume.
They are. Nice people work here.
Yeah.
Handsome, nice people.
Devilishly handsome.
Everyone smells great.
The whole place smells great.
Whole place. All smells great.
Yeah.
Every part of it. Even everything's leather. Even the humming fridge. Yeah. Leather. A leather fridge.
I hadn't seen a leather fridge before.
And all the guys who work here are wearing entirely leather outfits too. So
they are.
Seeing.
It's nice. It's nice down here in the old cabin.
That's not true.
And of course, I sit in a giant chair and it looks like I'm small.
Which is also leather.
It has 3 locations, including the Port Credit location. That's where we are right now. If you want to get a ton of compliments, come down to Cabin, get a fresh look. You won't regret it. You want to know more about this? Cabingoods.ca. Cabingoods.ca to check it all out.
All right,
exciting
let's
to
go.
be here. Let's do this because we're sponsored. What do you got there, Matt?
Well, first of all, I just want to remind everyone, this is March 1st. We're doing the day in sports, looking back in history. I'm going to start us off with, I'm going to go back to 1954. So this is March 1st, 1954. On the first day of spring training in Sarasota, Florida, Red Sox slugger Ted Williams breaks his collarbone. So he fell while reaching for a low line drive, and he would be out until May 15th. That just sucks. You know what I mean? First day of spring training.
So we're starting the podcast with something that sucks.
But when he did return, Mike, he bat 345 on the season. He tied the MVP and NL champion, batting champion, Willie Mays that year. They both bat 345, but Williams had only 386 at-bats, which meant he was not eligible for the AL batting title, which went to Cleveland's Bobby Avila, who hit 341.
Yeah, she did.
That sucks.
And I'll tell you one thing, Avila and Mays were both in the World Series that year, which of course Mays and the Giants went on to sweep.
That's the catch.
Sweep the Cleveland Indians.
And I'm not taking anything away. Hitting 341 is still great. I'm just saying, if Ted Williams got to play a few more games, he would have had that batting title.
Yes, especially when you consider that his first game back was coming off a just broken collarbone, so it probably wasn't 100% when he came back either.
Hey, I'm curious. I know I'm diving away from Williams a little bit to 1954, but if I am correct, that it was that is the only year in the 1950s that there was not a New York team Not a New York team. Not a Yankees. It was not the Yankees, the Dodgers, or not the Yankees.
I think there's no New York team is the thing.
The Giants. They won the World Series though.
Oh yeah, right. Maybe it was the only time there wasn't a Dodger or Yankee.
I think that's what it is. I think it's the only time there was not a Dodger or Yankee team in the World Series was throughout the 50s. Was 1954.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
And that sucks. Thank you, Matt, for bringing it back. That sucks. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it me?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to let's go to 2000. After a frustrating home loss to the Toronto Raptors, Boston Celtics head coach Rick Pitino made his famous "Larry Bird is not walking through that door" speech to the assembled media. He would resign from the job midway through the next season. Now, this quote is always brought up when people discuss Pitino's career in the NBA. It's always kind of like it was not a good look for him. It's not well remembered in Boston. They had a very young team at the time, including Chauncey Billups and a couple other players. And they were starting to try something, and it wasn't working, and he got a bit defensive. The reason I bring this up is partly to laugh at Rick Pitino, but also I was trying to think of like who has made the jump from the NCAA to the NBA and been successful as a head coach. And there's really not many, certainly not right away anyway. Like Larry Brown's the only one who's won a title that I can sort of come up with. But even Larry Brown went back and forth and certainly had a lot of hiccups and was fired a number of times before he finally won with the Pistons in 2004. Like Larry Brown was in San Antonio, he was with the Clippers, like Indiana. Like he did not win right away. John Calipari, it went really bad with the Nets. Billy Donovan has done okay. He hasn't won. Fred Hoiberg, Brad Stevens. The Celtics have done well, but he hasn't always been the head coach. Tim Floyd to the Bulls, Lon Kruger, PJ Carlesimo. Like, there's a long list of guys who have tried to do it, but it really, I don't know what the magic sauce is, and I don't know how you decide whether a guy's ready to coach in the NBA as opposed to college or whatever, but the history of it is not good. And Rick Pitino, who was, won a couple national championships in college at different places, really didn't. He did okay with the Knicks, but with the Celtics, it was kind of it blew up.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. I don't know why that is. I'm not an expert enough to know that, but it's interesting to note how rarely that actually.
And numbers are better in football, but that's also not always successful.
Well, right. I mean, there's a lot of football ones that blew up badly too, right? Like Nick Saban, and there's a lot of those too. Yeah. It just makes it clear how different of a game both are at the pro level as opposed to college. Sandy.
Yes, thank you. I was looking up, sorry, Mike, because I was listening to what you were saying, but I wanted to look up what I was talking about with the, in the 50s.
No, I could tell by your dead eyes
Yankees,
you weren't
no Dodgers.
listening at all.
I always have dead eyes. But from 1949 through until, I believe, in the 60s. It's absolutely incredible, this absolute string where the Yankees, it's almost always a New York team in the World Series for that length of time. I mean, aside from the Yankees winning the World Series from 49 through to 53, the dominance of New York teams is absolutely insane. Yeah. And that was correct. In the 50s, every single season except for 54, there was the Dodgers or the Yankees were in the World Series.
Often both.
And the only other team was the Giants in 54 from New York. So they're always these, every year. It's just a dominant time. Matt, if only you could have been living in as a baseball fan in New York in the 50s. Hey, Matt?
That would be great.
Yeah. Well, segue, 1969. March 1st, 1969, Yankee legend Mickey Mantle announces his retirement. Despite 536 home runs, plus 18 more in the World Series, 3 AL MVP awards, 20 All-Star games, Gold Glove, batting title, the Mick's career is still viewed as a what-if because of his injuries. In 1949, he was given a 4F rating at his draft physical examination due to his bad knees, even at age 18. Bad knees, military-wise anyway. Before turning 20, he likely tore the ACL in his right knee during the 51 World Series on a sprinkler. I hear it to be carried off in a stretcher. I say likely because he never had it repaired. They didn't have the kind of skills we have now of analyzing what his injury was.
Or anything, yeah.
But they always say that on that play, he was running back and DiMaggio called him off the last second, altering his trajectory and hitting that sprinkler.
Yeah.
And if you've seen this movie Blonde about Marilyn Monroe, you'll see what kind of an absolute prick Joe DiMaggio was in real life.
He doesn't say.
Which we all kind of knew.
Mick sounds like he would have been a lot more fun to hang out with.
Yeah, much rather hang out with Mickey Mantle. I think is very fair, and I think they always DiMaggio, just a side note, DiMaggio had it like absolutely set in stone that he was always announced as the world's. It was the greatest living Yankee.
Yeah.
The greatest living Yankee, Joe DiMaggio. He had to have that announced.
Or he wouldn't show up.
He wouldn't come
to events if they wouldn't say that.
At an Old Timers game, he wouldn't come out. Like he had to be called the greatest living Yankee.
Yeah.
And a lot of the Yankees behind his back called him the greatest living asshole. Which is fair.
Yeah.
He's still known as the fastest man to first base. Back to Mantle, by the way. Still known as the fastest man to first base in baseball during his early career. It remains the only man to hit at least 150 home runs from each side of the plate in his career, and he hit over 310 different seasons. It's amazing to do all those numbers and still be a what if.
It is weird to say he's a what if because 565 home runs. Like obviously he doesn't have anything to prove, but yeah, there are people who think he was the best player who ever played. He just was never 100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like also he was hungover or drunk a lot as a young man too, right? So he was also battling alcohol addiction. Like it's pretty amazing to think what he could have done without those incidents having happened to him. He might have been the greatest player of all time. He's in the discussion now.
Yeah. Definitely is, yes.
But he is, it's weird to think of him, like I say, as a what if, but I was trying to think of somebody like equivalents in other sports of guys who played a long time, but, and had a great career, but still because they were injured. Like, to me, the NBA guy is Grant Hill.
Yeah.
Who played a long time, but like really missed a lot of prime years because of that foot injury that just would not heal. Mm-hmm. Grant Hill still played 18 NBA seasons, I think, and had a really good career. But he did not, like, you remember those first few years with the Pistons, he looked like he was going to be the next Jordan, like the guy to take the mantle after Jordan retired, and it didn't really go
well,
that
hockey's
way.
had a few. I mean, even Mario Lemieux. I mean,
right.
Injuries and cancer.
Yeah. I know you're going to laugh, but because I always say Mike Bossy.
Yeah.
He retired when he was 30.
Yeah.
Because of back injuries.
Back or knees? Back?
No, it was his back, yeah.
Oh.
500 plus goals.
Yeah.
Like, he was 30.
Those are all what ifs as well.
Those are big what ifs. And again, guys who played, but still, you wonder,
missing seasons.
How it would have been. Without, yeah, that's right.
And cutting longevity, obviously.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's Mantle. Matt.
Well, 4F knees at 18, though. I'm just wondering.
Yeah. Which is, well, I guess I would say the military had a different reason, or somebody dropped a few bucks into a doctor's hands from the Yankees organization.
Oh, okay, we can't verify that. That's
if you want to check it out later, give Matt a call at home.
Yeah. So give out his number at the end of the podcast.
March 1st, 1969. The Philadelphia Spectrum was closed down after some of the roof got blown off again. What happened was earlier in February. This is when the people were watching the Ice Capades performance. A strong wind ripped open a portion of the roof. So they decided that a patch would fix this. Short shutdown. Patched it up, opened again. But on March 1st, another strong wind blew off more of the roof, and they decided to close indefinitely for repairs.
Good call.
It wasn't an old building either. It was completed fairly quickly a year earlier in time for Philadelphia to get the Flyers, like the expansion Flyers at the time, and for the 76ers to play as well. the 67s. So I think what made it most convenient is that the Flyers and the 76ers were both playoff teams that season. And the Flyers had to play their final regular home season games in New York and Toronto and Quebec.
Wow.
And the 76ers had to play at Convention Hall in the Palestra.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about the Palestra again.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to come up.
So weird I find about this, the whole thing. First of all, Matt, just to be finicky about this, you said 1969. It was 1968. That happened.
Shit.
That's fine. That's fine. We don't want letters.
Nope.
No.
Thank you, Mike.
Crazy though that when the Flyers are going to play games, they pick Quebec City. Like, you'd think Jersey would have an arena they could have played in. I know the Devils weren't there yet, but like, you'd think there'd be somewhere close. Like going all the way to Quebec City to play those games when there was only 12 teams in the NHL at the time. There must have been somewhere else that was a little closer. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I
mean, luckily, the Spectrum was ready for the Flyers playoff run.
Right.
Unfortunately, they lost the first round to
St. Louis.
No,
that's right.
But still not bad for an expansion team.
No.
Right?
Yeah, but there was a weird thing then, wasn't there, with the expansion teams? Like, that's why the Blues made the cup, because
they all played in the same conference.
Yeah, they all played in the same
conference. The original
conference.
6 were all in one conference, and the new teams were all in the same conference. That's why St. Louis...
What a weird decision that was.
Very strange.
But that's why, Matt, you end up with Flyers getting that far, because they're in the expansion conference instead of competing with everybody else
They
to
were
get there.
facing off against the California Golden Seals.
And conversely, what an amazing thing for the teams that won the cup in that era, because they had to play all the original 6 to get there.
No kidding.
Right.
Yeah. So Boston was really
dominant.
Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to me. 1977, this is to bring back a classic. This is a thing only I give a shit about, I bet. Previews began for Bleacher Bums, a play written collaboratively by Chicago's Organic Theater Company. Based on an idea by Joe Mantegna, future Criminal Minds star, it was set in the bleachers of Chicago's Wrigley Field. It toured the U.S. that year with cast members including George Wendt, Dennis Farina, and Gary Sandy. And in 1979, PBS filmed a live performance for broadcast. In 2002, it was made into a forgettable film starring Brad Garrett of Everybody Loves Raymond and Wayne Knight of Seinfeld, and was filmed in Toronto.
Oh my
God. It's like a who's who of sitcom stars from years past who was all involved with this play over the years. I've never heard of this play. I would suspect it might not hold up well, but I would like to find it and read it.
I think it'd be great if we all watched that movie.
Yeah,
I think that's a sleepover, Matt. An adult sleepover.
I'm wondering about a staged reading.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
There we go. That is the right.
If we do that, I may want to go back and change my picks for my favorite sports movie, because I have a feeling
I can love that
this
one.
may slide in.
If
there.
we do a stage, we're going to do a stage reading of Bleacher Bums.
Bums.
We're going to get this. We're going to get the script somehow.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're going to stage reading, and we're going to have that as a bonus podcast episode
yeah.
for the 4 people that would be interested.
Yes, recorded live in my basement. Yeah.
Yeah. Gary Sandy, of course, Andy Travis from
WKRP.
WKRP.
Yeah.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's him. Handsome.
Yeah.
70s handsome, especially.
George Wendt, of course, Norm from Cheers.
Yeah.
Like, it's a who's who.
It is.
Yeah. All right, Sandy, it's all you.
Thank you. Well, we talked about the dominant Bruins, so I would like to talk about it. March 1st, 1969, when Phil Esposito had 2 points in a game versus the Rangers to reach 99 points in the season, passing Stan Mikita's previous NHL single-season record of 97 points. He finished with 126 that season, and his 152 points from the 70-71 season. It was the NHL standard for over a decade until Wayne Gretzky came along. And long ago, a few months ago, on this podcast, we talked about that Gretzky season because that was the Mr. Big we landed on.
Yeah,
was that
that's
the
right.
Mr. Big contest to get the number of points that he would have in that season with Gretzky. Esposito, a couple quick stories. One is, if you haven't already, please go and Google and watch on YouTube the Saison jeans commercial from 1979 featuring Esposito with the then Rangers. The entire Rangers team wearing these real sexy jeans. Fantastic commercial. Saison jeans, 1979 Rangers.
Ron Greshner, too, I suspect. Yeah.
And I remember also, just quickly to get the story small and short and quick. So in Sault Ste. Marie, was wearing on a past episode, the Sioux Greyhounds jersey.
Yeah.
So the Sault Ste. Marie had the Esposito brothers grew up there, of course. And so when Phil hit the NHL and became a star, his parents had a stack of autographed pictures of him. The neighborhood kids would knock on the Esposito house. Parents would give out these photos with this already autographed photo of Phil. And Tony said that when he went home, he started having to give out the photos, and he kept saying, I'm in the NHL too. They just wanted Phil's autograph. So they had to go pictures from the stack. It was an old picture. It was a great story Tony used to tell, and his parents verified. That's the story. That's Phil Esposito.
Tony's brother, Phil.
Yeah, Tony's brother, Phil.
Remember from the Lightnings.
Amazing to think he was the first guy to score 100 points in a season.
Yeah.
Like that's
Really?
ostensibly what happened there, right? Because Mikita's was 97. So I don't think people associate that with Phil Esposito, but that's a pretty big landmark.
It's massive, and that incredibly dominant. What we're talking about here, to win the cup, to be that good, those Bruins teams with Esposito and Orr and all the rest, unbelievable teams.
To beat those Canadiens teams, that's incredible.
Dominant teams.
Yeah, Matt,
Mike, I'm going to go to 1970. This is a time when NHL center Charlie Burns led the North Stars to an 8-0 win versus Toronto. He was also serving as Minnesota's head coach at the time. He took on the role temporarily when head coach Ren Blair was fired, and he did it for the final 34 games of the regular season and one round of the playoffs. A few years after retiring as a player, he again took over as the North Stars head coach for the second half of the 74-75 season when they fired Jack Gordon. And I believe he was the last player coach in the NHL.
Yeah, I would have to think.
Yeah.
I have no idea what Charlie Burns looks like, but he sounds like a guy who would have like a big mustache and suspenders.
I'm diving into Google.
You know what I mean? Like,
but yes.
I can just, for some reason, I think of that when I listen to that story.
Player coach in the NHL. So fantastic. Just like you're just going over the boards and you're getting out there and then coming back and calling
Yelling
the shots.
at everybody.
Oh, my goodness.
Really, I think it was obviously more common in the early years. You had who have you had? Doug Harvey was the last one to do it for a full season in 61-62. You had Sid Abel. You had Frank Boucher for the Rangers. Cy Boucher, that's probably right. Thank you, Frank. Cy Denny. One of my favorites, though, would be Lester Patrick. Lester Patrick did it in 1928, but only for one game, where he had to substitute himself as an emergency goalie. So he was the coach, and their goalie got hurt, and he substituted himself in the Stanley Cup Finals.
And then after that, he's like, fuck this.
Not doing this anymore. Well, I just took a look at our good friend there, Charlie Burns, just by the way. Quick update.
Okay.
Worth looking up. A lot of good images. He doesn't have a big mustache, Mike, unfortunately. It looks like his nose has been punched in about 17 times. And a fantastic helmet. He had this giant, weird leather helmet like you'd see in early football. And I will tell you this: he was on the gold medal. The Canadian team won the gold medal in the 1958 Olympics in Oslo.
All right, there you go. Good for you, Charlie.
There you go, Charlie. And he lived to be 85, so he had a great run.
I bet you could find a leather helmet around this place.
Yeah. You can get them with a haircut.
Although he played for Canada, he was born in Detroit. Figure that one out. He's from Detroit. Played for Canada. Way too much in Charlie Burns. I'm so sorry.
People are tuning out as we speak. March 1st, 1949, heavyweight boxing champion Joe Louis announced his retirement. Born in Alabama, Louis's family moved to Detroit when he was 11 years old.
There we go.
It all ties in. And he was one of Detroit's most beloved citizens. He went 66-3 in his career, had 52 career knockouts, and he defended the heavyweight title a record 25 times in his career. And he had the longest unbeaten title reign of any boxer in any weight class in history. It was almost 12 years. Louis's championship reign is viewed as historic for many reasons, historians often citing him as being one of the first black heroes in America, with all Americans respecting him for things like work ethic, humility, and military service. His defeat of Germany's Max Schmeling in a 1938 rematch at Yankee Stadium in just over 2 minutes is one of the most anticipated sporting events of the 20th century. Period. Over 70,000 people saw him knock Schmeling down 3 times in 2 minutes, and Schmeling was only able to throw 2 punches in the entire fight.
Wow.
Louis was also a key figure in integrating the PGA Tour because he was invited to play at the 1952 San Diego Open, which forced the PGA to remove a bylaw which stated that the tour was only open to Caucasians. That's a true thing that happened, and Joe Louis broke that barrier. So kind of like a historic dude as well as a great fighter.
If you don't mind, I'm going to jump into quick hits. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
Okay. Quick hits from March 1st. Canadian skater Elvis Stojko nails the first ever quad triple combination jump in figure skating history to win the Champions Series final in 1997. Stojko did that. We got to get Stojko on this show. We got to get him on this podcast. We're going to make him. We're going to make this happen. We've talked about ice capades. We've talked about Stojko. We got to.
This would have been it. Yeah.
It's all heading towards a point. We're going to get Stojko on the show. Funny story about Elvis Stojko. Just quickly, there was a rumor when I was a kid that he basically beat up Eric Lindros because they're both from Oshawa, and he beat up Eric Lindros, and because Stojko was into the martial arts, still in the martial arts. So the whole story was they were getting into this fight, and suddenly he did a roundhouse kick and knocked Lindros out. Basically, not apparently hard to say if that's true. Probably not true. But Lindros apparently has several times asked Elvis Stojko to please tell everybody that's not true. And Stojko refuses to do it because he just wants that story to be there forever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course he
It
does.
really bothers Eric Lindros.
Of course.
but
It's fantastic.
but he won't let go of that story.
It's so good. Yeah, it has to be. Let's just say it's true.
I want to believe it's true, so we're going to say it's true.
I'm going to say it's true.
This day in sports says the Stojko
Fact.
is a fact.
We did
Let's-
the research. It happened.
Let's get him on. Let's have him verify.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's give him
And
a chance to
We need to
clear
do
the
that.
air.
Get Lindros on.
Oh, the
We'll-
double guest.
We'll
If he
invite
says-
him, yeah.
If he says no, we'll just say it, you just don't remember.
Yeah.
I know somebody that was at the barbecue when that was happening up north.
There you go.
So Frank
We
is
saying
saying
he
he
knows
knows
sort of
somebody who was at a
second-
barbecue when it was
Yeah.
happening up north.
Telephone tag,
Yeah.
eyewitness account.
Yeah. Okay, so Frank says it's fact. We say it's fact.
That was not that quick a hit, but it was awesome. Okay, Kippen.
All right, quick hit. It's 1993, March 1st, Anaheim's expansion NFL franchise announced that their team, which would begin playing in the 1993-94 season, will be named the Mighty Ducks. Oof. Yep, the movie had come out in 92, and later in 2006, they became the Anaheim Ducks, and that was the year that they won the Cup, 2006-2007. But it makes you wonder, we had talked on another episode about Anaheim Angels. What's with Anaheim and changing their sports names?
Yeah.
I don't know. They can't stick with one.
They want to be LA.
Yeah.
I think is the problem. And
Well,
they-
the Angels have always been the Angels. It was just they could never decide where they're from.
I guess that's it.
You know,
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
The Los Angeles. Anyway, we don't need to go back on that. 1994, Portland Trailblazers TV colorman Mike Rice was ejected from the game by referee Steve Jaffee in the third quarter for gesticulating towards him after looking at the replay monitor on a foul call. I only bring this up because I think that's fantastic. I can't imagine a referee doing that. But then there's, Joey Crawford was always throwing guys out of games for like the dumbest reasons.
Yes.
Remember that Tim Duncan was sitting on the bench once and didn't even say anything. He was laughing. Crawford threw him out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I have not seen footage of this, but
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, tossing a commentator out of the game. Is,
Not an assistant coach.
Get outta
You're
here.
Not a fan.
Yeah.
The commentator. Like, you're ruining the broadcast.
he's who doesn't even work. Like he works for the network. He doesn't work for the NBA,
Nope.
and you're allowed to toss him out.
I know. Yeah, well, next one, Sandy.
Quick hits. All right, here we go. I'm just going to randomly grab one on here. Oh, look at this. Those who don't know, Frank just handed me a 0% Peroni. 0% Peroni, not a sponsor of this show,
Yet.
but we're going to get them. We're going to get them. I'll go Pavel Bure. 1993, Pavel Bure scored twice versus Buffalo in a game in Hamilton to become the first player in Vancouver Canucks history to reach 50 goals in a season. And in a previous episode, I talked about another great Canucks moment. So I guess I'm giving another gift for Canucks fans who are suffering a long season, bad season.
You're
Another
looking
gift
after
from the
them.
past.
You're looking
Another gift
after
from the
them. That's
past.
nice.
There we go.
Kippen?
Quick hit, going all the way back to 1919 when on March 1st, Newsy Lalonde scored 5 goals in an NHL playoff game to set a record that has been tied but never broken for most goals in an NHL playoff game. The others to do it, Maurice Richard, Daryl Sittler, Reggie Leach, and Mario Lemieux.
Not bad company.
Newsy Lalonde, who I believe Newsy was also a player coach.
Yeah. What team was that? What team did he play for in 1919?
It's a great question. I believe it was. I think it was.
It was the Mighty Ducks.
I think it was. Do you have it up there? I think it was the Montreal team.
It all ties in.
Do we all have a Maroons team or something like that?
It
It might be the Maroons. Now hold on. How do you get a name like nickname Newsy? Any thoughts on that?
Newsy Lalonde? I don't know.
Like you always know what's going on. You always have the
Yeah.
word on the street.
It's gossipy.
Gossipy. Yeah.
That's probably what it is. A quick hit. March 1st, 1997, 34-year-old Sugar Ray Leonard lost by a 5th-round TKO to Hector Camacho in Atlantic City, New Jersey. It was the second consecutive loss for Leonard, giving him only 3 in his career, and it was the only knockout loss of his career. He immediately retired afterwards and never returned to the ring.
Wow.
Shout out respect to Sugar Ray Leonard for not ever coming back to the ring and doing the, like, I'm 48 and I'm going to fight another 52-year-old guy for millions of dollars. Like, I'm done. He said he was done, and he was done.
Yeah. Not
Great.
the George Foreman play.
No, not Mike. Like, there's a lot of guys who have, Oscar De La Hoya can't seem to give it up. There's a lot, Manny Pacquiao. Like, there's a lot of guys cashing checks when they're way too old. A lot of respect for Sugar Ray. He quit when he was 34. Like,
Wow.
He knew he was done, and he quit.
That is hard to believe in this day and age of Tom Brady.
It is, because I'm sure he got offered a lot of money to come back and fight.
He did.
But a lot of respect to him for that.
Wow.
Do we have any more quick hits anybody wants to get before we go to birthdays?
Let's get some birthdays. Matt, you okay with that?
Yeah. Newsy, he did play for the Montreal Canadiens. I just
you
wanted to throw that in there.
It was like a 1 in 6 chance.
Do you want to hit us up with a birthday, Matt?
I do.
Okay.
I'll hit you up with a birthday. Gosh,
Please.
you got me fact checking. Let's go with Yolanda Griffith. So March 1st, 1970, Yolanda Griffith is a Hall of Fame WNBA. Thank you. Player. She's a 7-time All-Star, 1999 League MVP, 1999 Defensive Player of the Year, and the 2005 Finals MVP when she won the championship with the Sacramento Monarchs. That's a pretty impressive career.
That's not a bad resume at all. No.
And I apologize for stumbling my way through it.
You know, when you got frustrated, when you're stumbling through WNBA, you made it sound like my mom makes when she gives up. It was like, it's just like, and I thought you were done. I thought you were going to pack up your laptop and hit the road.
Well, you know who
Turn
never
the
gave
mic
up?
off.
What?
Yolanda Griffith.
Thank you.
You'll win
you wouldn't
Defensive
do
Player
it.
of the Year if you give up.
Oh, that's
We
exactly right.
all stumble through things.
Yeah.
That's true. But you got to keep going.
You
That's
got to
right.
keep going.
Birthday 1953, NFL linebacker Thomas Hollywood Henderson, who played in the NFL between 75 and 81. His career ended early because of drug troubles, but then in 2000, he won a $28 million Texas lottery.
Whoa.
It's an incredible story. He's now a public speaker. He's overcome his struggles with drugs. He gives his time and his money to anti-drug charities and organizations. It's a remarkable story of a guy who completely turned his life around, who really had bottomed out, and then he won $28 million in the lottery. Pretty amazing.
I love that. 1973. Happy birthday, March 1st, 1973, to 5-time NBA All-Star and 1994 NBA Rookie of the Year, Chris Webber. Webber, because this guy, I love Chris Webber. One of my favorite things about Chris Webber is his license plate is timeout. And he
Is it really?
he embraced the legendary timeout against North Carolina in the finals, and when he was the Fab Four. And he embraced that was the biggest mistake of his life. But once he embraced it, he felt like he turned it all around. And I was not a fan of that team, that Michigan team. But I'll tell you, when he was crying with his mother, it was like, oh no, he's just a kid.
I was cheering for that team, but that was awful. And I feel like Chris Webber, a good comparison is he's kind of the Bill Buckner of basketball. He's a player who was really, really good.
Yeah,
and all of it gets forgotten because of one bad moment, right?
Yep.
I mean, it is what it is. Sports aren't fair, but I feel like he's the Bill Buckner of basketball. That's the first thing everybody remembers, and he really deserves to be remembered for other things too.
Yeah. But it is a lesson on how to
deal with it
and get in front of an issue that could haunt you.
Like Buckner appearing on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah,
like same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like he eventually just embraced it.
He eventually embraced it, but he always said that it was killing him.
Oh yeah, like it took him a long time. Yeah.
I do believe also, I'm not 100% certain, but I think that's also the name of Chris Webber's charity. I think is also called the Timeout Charity. I think it's totally embraced it. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Good for him.
Yep.
Should we move to the draft now?
Yes, let's do it. Well, earlier I mentioned Mickey Mantle.
You did.
And of course, one of the great 5-tool players of all time in obviously in baseball. And you've got to have those 5 tools to be considered that legend level.
That's right. And just so for anybody out here who's listening, the 5-tool player is a thing that scouts use to evaluate a player or a prospect. And the 5 tools, just so we're clear about it, are speed, power, hitting ability, arm, and defense.
Yeah.
That's the 5 tools, right? Yeah. So it's important to remember that those are the 5 things that you're evaluated on. So our draft today is going to be, we're going to pick for Alyson Footer to decide who's picked the best players. We're going to pick 3 each, I believe.
Yes,
is that right?
Let's do 3.
Yeah, 3 players each.
Although logically we should have picked 5 each, but I guess I'm just thinking of that now.
We could.
Yeah.
It would take a while, but we could do it. We're going to take our team of 5 tool players who are not in the Hall of Fame.
Cannot be in the Hall of Fame. So again, Mantle's gone and Mays is gone.
Mays is gone. Yeah.
They can be active or inactive.
Yeah.
Retired. but they cannot be in the Hall of Fame.
I would love it if inactive didn't mean retired. We just said that they don't run, they're just kind of lazy.
They used to have 5 tools, now they have 2. There are guys like,
they're equipped. I'm equipped to do 5 if you guys want to do it.
We can do 5.
Do you want to do it, Matt?
Sure.
Let's do it.
As long as we
keep
let's just keep it moving.
Let's live on the edge.
Yeah.
Who's got the first
I
pick?
was prepared to
Who
do
has-
3, but I can do 5.
Who has
Look at
first
me.
pick?
Well, I did first pick last time.
Okay.
And Mike, Sandy, I think you.
Whoa!
Wait. No, Mike, you have first
Damn.
pick.
Okay, I'll go first then. My first pick will be, without hesitation, Alex Rodriguez.
Okay.
Okay.
I will tell you that 696 home runs. So power's there. Batting average career 295, stole 329 bases, and won 2 Gold Gloves playing shortstop. So he has all the 5 tools. Obviously we know why he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
But he is not in the Hall of Fame, so I'm taking him. If he hadn't messed with steroids, I think he's probably a very inner circle Hall of Fame member. We're talking about one of the 10 best players of all time.
Yeah.
So to me, he's a pretty easy first pick.
Okay.
Sadie.
I think I go next. Actually, we go like this.
Okay. Whatever you need, go, man.
It's the truth. Don't we go like that?
You just go,
No,
man.
last time
just
we
don't
went
take
back.
my guy, and then everything will be fine.
Wait, no, you can go. Go
No,
ahead.
go. Take my guy.
All right. Well, similar to Mike, I'm going to go Barry Bonds.
Fuck you. That was who I was taking.
I mean, he went 40-40 in 1990.
Yeah, I mean, hey, tell me all about my pick.
8 gold gloves, like a better fielder.
The only argument against Barry Bonds is that throw to get Sid Bream out at the plate.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
he's remembered.
That's sort
but
of 4.5 tools.
Yep.
one play. Okay, yeah. So my pick is Barry Bonds.
That's pretty good.
Great choice.
He was pretty good.
Yeah. Was going to be my pick, but what the heck?
Yeah,
Let's
I
go with
figured that was.
let's go with active players. Mike Trout.
Yeah. So
I'll go Mike Trout.
I think those are the consensus top 3.
And then we got our top 3 there. I don't have to say more about Mike Trout other than if he could just stay healthy. And and I'm going to tell you, Mike, we talked about this with Mantle. Trout could end up being another what if.
Yeah, he kind of is. Yeah, because he doesn't really run anymore. He certainly has run enough the first 10 years.
Sure.
His back is kind of like last year. I think he only stole 3 bases last year, but
Yep.
for the first 10 years, yeah, he was
Yep.
Mickey Mantle. Like
That's it.
Yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
think that's possibly tying into another what if. And let's see.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit. This may surprise you. Part of this is because he was my favorite player when I was a kid. But I also, there's stats to back it up. He's a big what if because of injuries and cancer. But my next pick is Eric Davis.
Yeah.
And
He's on my list.
in 1987, like this is crazy. Eric Davis had 37 home runs, 50 stolen bases, was caught 6 times, and had 120 runs scored while winning a Gold Glove, and he only finished 9th in MVP voting.
Wow.
In 1986, he stole 80 bases and had 27 home runs.
Whoa.
He's the only guy ever to have a 35-50 and the only guy ever to have a 25-80.
Wow.
He had a hose in the
Yeah.
outfield to throw guys out.
Yeah.
He looked like when you watched him play at that time, you thought this guy's the best player in the game.
Yeah.
But he got hurt, and he played on sort of half a body for the last 10 years of his career.
Mike and I like to celebrate legendary players, great players with the team they're not often associated with. So legendary Detroit Tiger,
Yes,
Eric
there you
Davis.
go.
Legendary San Francisco Giant,
Thank you.
Eric Davis. Yes, that's right.
Matt, who you got?
I'm going to go Mookie Betts.
Uh-huh.
All right, so you got MVP award, 6-time All-Star, 6-time Gold Glove, batting title, Wilson overall Defender of the Year, I believe. I just think he's a shoo-in.
And an absolute rocket of an arm.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you see him throw a guy, like, so accurate. He's a great player.
Okay. Well, they say that my pick here, he kind of chose not to hit home runs as he's capable of.
I know who this is.
Ichiro.
Yeah.
Got to go Ichiro because if he doesn't have that 5th tool quite the power, the other 4 he dominates in my opinion. So I'm going to take him. Again, rocket for an arm, all the speed, all the hits.
Certainly the hit tool, yes.
And the glove is there. So I'm going with Ichiro.
Okay, very good. Okay, my next pick is definitely a what if, because he only really had 4 healthy seasons.
I know where you're going.
but those seasons are extraordinary.
Yep.
So my pick is Grady Sizemore
Not where I thought you were
of the
going.
Cleveland Indians. From 22 to 25, like he was 22 in 2005. He scored 111 runs, hit 22 home runs, stole 22 bases at 20 and batted .289. He led the league in runs scored the next year, won 2 Gold Gloves. Like he was he looked like he was going to be the future of Major League Baseball. He scored 134 runs in 2006. He's walked over 100 times in 2007. He was the full meal deal.
And then back in the days, fantasy baseball, that was a top choice.
Yeah,
right there.
he was like the guy you let off with.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he had his knee he just couldn't get his knee fixed and just couldn't play anymore.
Yeah.
But he was my favorite player to watch during that time too. He was an unbelievable defensive player. So that's my first pick.
That's a good choice.
Second round or third round. Next.
All right.
Wow.
All right. This could be a controversial one, but I am going with Shohei Ohtani. Because he can play in right field, and you put him in right field, and his arm and his defense are going to be an asset. He's got, he's just a great ball player. I don't think that you could argue that his fifth tool. Well, we defined the fifth tool, so the 5 tools have been defined. You can't say it's pitching. I'm just saying you put him out there. We already know that his arm, he's going to be able to throw people out, and we know that he can. He's an incredible athlete and can play defense.
I would say that is a controversial pick.
It is too, but whatever. Your criteria is your own.
Hey, you know what? I like the idea of right now because Mike kind of encouraged it, like those great years where it was not a lot of time, but you certainly saw it. Josh Hamilton.
Yeah.
Josh Hamilton is that guy who had those tools, unfortunately had so many personal issues, but on the other side, came all the way back to be able to perform at that level after being so out of baseball.
And won an MVP after all that, yeah.
So I'm going to go with Josh Hamilton.
I remember people saying he was the closest thing to Redford's character in The Natural. Like he was that. He
kind of came back out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Incredible.
Totally. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a biased pick for me, but I'm going to defend it with a really cool statistic. My fourth guy, my fourth guy on the list is Devon White.
Whoa, Devo.
I'm going to blow your mind with a little pick here, with a little stat here.
Okay.
There are 3 players in Major League Baseball history to have had over 200 home runs, over 300 stolen bases, and over 100 defensive runs saved. Barry Bonds, Willie Mays, and Devon White.
Devo. Wow. Yeah.
You can't do those. Are all the tools put together there, and he did it at the highest of levels. He is one of the greatest center fielders of all time. We all saw him. We were spoiled rotten here watching him play. But, like, those are totals. 208 home runs, 346 RBIs. Like, or 346 steals. He was the real deal. And played for a long time, won 7 Gold Gloves. I loved him. He was my favorite player when he played in Toronto, so I'm picking him.
Yeah, that was an absolutely brilliant move to bring him from California to Toronto, and that was... Wow, that was it. That was the key piece, really, I think, in the first World Series run.
It certainly made a big difference, didn't it?
Yeah, massive. And here's to an all-time great Diamondback, Devon White.
Legendary Milwaukee Brewer, Devon White. Matt.
All right, I'm going controversial again. I'm taking Aaron Judge. He stole 16 bases last year. That's speed to me. That's 5 categories.
There you go.
Okay.
Interesting picks. I mean, Matt's
He's a good defensive player.
Matt's going.
He is a good defensive player, and hey,
yeah, and he hit like batting out. Yeah, it's not that controversial.
Here's just a guy I loved. Okay, here's just a guy I loved. This might be a personal pick. It's going to be a good pick, but it's also personal. I loved Alfonso Soriano, and I'm going to throw him out there as one of my 5 tool guys because I want to get into controversy.
Yeah,
okay, so
the controversy
will
is
be the
defense.
Yeah,
there are 2
fair.
tools that he didn't.
I want him out there.
Okay. Incredible.
Matt was stirring the pot with controversial guys, so I thought I'm going to go with a guy I like a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. My last pick, I have a feeling he might get into the Hall of Fame at some point, but he's not there yet. My last pick is Carlos Beltran.
Nice pick. That's a good pick.
This is a stat that I think tells you a lot about what kind of player he is. For any player who has over 200 stolen bases, he has the highest stolen base efficiency in Major League history. So he stole, let me see here, he stole 312 bases and was only caught 49 times.
Wow.
which is an efficiency of like 80%. So he was stealing at a high volume and not getting caught. He had years where he stole 41 and got caught 4 times, stole 42 and got caught 3 times, stole 31 and got caught once. He won a bunch of gold gloves. He was the anchor of a lot of good teams. He was a great hitter, a switch hitter, about as graceful a player as I ever saw. So my last guy is Carlos Beltran.
Good pick. I love Carlos Beltran too.
Yeah, me too.
Man.
And arguably a better defender than Alfonso Soriano.
You could make the case.
Yeah.
Okay, so that comes down to me for my final pick. Okay, let me just go in between a couple of guys here. All right, this guy is very underrated. He's a great defender, originally a shortstop, 4-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger. He's consistent. It's Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, he's on my list.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Just, I don't think he gets enough respect. Come on. Consistency. The guy's a great player.
He is a great player.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to.
And he certainly has speed, and yeah, for sure.
I mean, he makes a lot more sense than a couple more of your other picks.
Oh, we'll see, man.
I took Soriano just to take the heat off of you, man.
Yeah, that's.
I feel no heat.
All right. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I've got it down to, I got the final pick here, which is always a bit challenging because you've got a ton of guys you could still take. I might go with personal preference here, though. I'm just trying to decide if it should be a personal thing because I got mocked last time. But here's a guy, another guy I just love, Reggie Smith. I love this guy.
Great
I
player.
love this guy, and I love there's a story I'm probably not telling, but basically, when the whole Yaz Reggie Smith and they moved Reggie Smith out, and Reggie Smith was just like, he's pretty defiant, and he didn't say much, but he basically was defiant and said they traded away the wrong guy.
Ooh.
And I love that he said that about Yaz. But I love Reggie Smith's attitude. I love the way he played. He played well for a really long time, and sometimes he gets forgotten, but I think he's a great 5-tool player.
Okay. Very good. And yeah, great player. Great player.
Yep. So we've got these are pretty locked down. There's some controversy.
Controversy. No, Trey Turner is a controversy.
Trey Turner was on the list there. I had Trey Turner there.
I also Andrew McCutcheon is one I thought would
Andrew
go.
Jones didn't come.
Oh, Andrew Jones. That's a good
yeah.
pick too. Real Muto. Why not get a catcher?
Yeah, I thought
the guy
about
can
that.
run.
Yeah.
And that's another tool.
Another guy like that we didn't talk about who should Gary Sheffield.
Yeah.
He wasn't a great defensive player, which is why I didn't pick him. But 250 stolen bases and 500 home runs.
Yeah,
so
bad
I guess
D.
he's not really a 5-tool guy, but power speed.
I thought for sure last round you're gonna go for Byron Buxton. Sorry.
No,
you love Buxton. I did consider.
Do love him.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. I mean, he would be, if I picked 10 players, he'd be on it for sure.
Bo Jackson, maybe.
Yeah.
Ozzy Albies. Another player I love Starling Marte, but I mean, it's up and down. Lindor, even.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys, obviously, you're not going to get everybody on those lists, but let's see ultimately how we're going to be judged. Hopefully mocked because we deserve it.
Yes. And we've got somebody really good to judge it too.
Let's go and get her on the show.
We are into judgment mode on our draft. Our 5-tool players who didn't get into the Hall of Fame or have not gotten to the Hall of Fame yet because they can be active players as well. And joining us today is Alyson Footer, executive editor, maybe someday director of national content for MLB.com. Her baseball career began in 1997 when she was hired by the Astros as a member of their media relations staff. In 2001, MLB.com was formed, and she covered the Astros as a beat writer for the next 8 years. So in 2009, she returned to the Astros as their social media director. In 2012, she moved back to MLB.com as a national correspondent. She began a current post in 2020. So, Alyson, it's like you go away from this job and then you go back to it. Are they just drawing you back in? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's confusing to people too because I never actually left Houston. So after I left the Astros a second time and went back to MLB, everyone thought I moved to New York, but I'm actually still in Houston. The social media director job was funny because social media was just kind of starting and nobody really understood it. And certainly the people who were running the Astros didn't understand it, but they knew that they needed to. And they saw that I was posting all the stuff on Twitter and Facebook, and they were like, "Can you come and do that for us?" And I was like, okay, because I needed to I was a little burnt out on the reporting and I was going to get back on the charters to be honest with you. And the team was starting to do their nosedive, and they wanted me to keep the fan base interested while they were breaking it all down. So that was my job for 3 years. It was a bad year. Go look at the Astros records from 2009 to 2012. And I was in charge of corresponding with the fans directly. Like back then, they would tweet you, you tweet them back. Like everybody was being nice to each other. Like you could actually have conversations. And then I was like, wow, they're mad all the time. Fans are mad all the time. So it was a good way to sort of, get into the social media realm and prepare myself for what was coming later when it's just a free for all and not very nice atmosphere.
When you said though that they saw that you were doing social media early on, like that's the person that's going to have to do this job. It's for us, it's like in a comedy writing room. They're like, they think they have to have forever. It was like, we have to have a millennial in this room. They know the millennial thing, but sometimes it was like that guy's 30. He just looks young. He's like, but they just randomly have to have that person. That guy seems cool. Put him in the room, now you joined the Astros in 1997. I'm curious when maybe in the early days or throughout your time with the Astros, like a few players that really stuck out as some of your favorites that you worked with.
Let's see. Lance Berkman was always one of my favorites. Jose Vizcaíno, Tony Eusebio.
Very cool. Yeah.
I love that guy.
Loved him. Yeah.
Yeah. My goodness. I mean, there were so many. Brad Lidge. Brad Lidge is like when people say, who's the best person you've ever covered? Like he's the best like human that I've ever encountered in the game. And almost everyone that I've ever, there's really only one player that I just didn't like at all. And then some others that I could have done without. But for the most part, everyone was really cordial and we all got along well. Brad Lidge is such a quality person on every level. And it was so painful if you remember the Albert Pujols home run in 2005 in the postseason off of Brad. Yep. And it was like, it was such a different thing for the people that cover him, not to mention his teammates, but just because like, wow, you don't want this to happen to Brad Lidge. Like you're objective and you're supposed to not care, but I'm like, oh God, anyone but Brad. So yeah, cool. Those are some of my favorites.
Nice. Yeah, he's definitely got that reputation, and I know in Toronto or a brief amount of time. We call it a brief amount of time, Mike. What do you think?
Brad Lidge?
Yeah.
Did he even pitch in Toronto?
Maybe not.
I don't think but that's why his reputation is so good. He never had.
He's great. They love him here. I wanted to see if you were listening. That's fantastic. And then of course,
I started to panic a little bit. I was like,
no. And then of course, Willie Mays, great years in Toronto. Those were fun times.
Right. Yeah.
This is how much work we do. I wanted to take the pressure off of Alyson that there doesn't have to be anything that's actually factual in this entire episode.
Okay, Alyson, I have a little question for you before we start officially. In 2012, when you were there working at the Astros, as you said, trying to drum up fan attention while they weren't such a good team, I wouldn't have got this in 1,000 guesses. Can you guess who had the highest WAR on the 2012 Astros team? I'll give you a hint, it's a pitcher. There's no way you'll get it. It's absurd. I don't even know if I even remember this person, period. But he had 3.1 WAR that year.
That was the highest.
He led the team.
Yeah.
God, I have to remember who was pitching. Oh.
Yes, exactly.
No, it's somebody you haven't even heard of. This person you would have, like maybe Bud Norris?
No, that's it. That's who I would have guessed. He was 11-11 that year. Lucas
all
Harrell.
The Astros wins. Who?
Lucas Harrell.
Oh, that guy. You know what? That's a really good point. He was actually a pretty decent pitcher.
Yeah, I've forgotten all about him. But 11-11 he was that year for that terrible team. That's not easy to do.
Now, Mike, when did he play for the Blue Jays?
He did play for the Blue Jays, actually.
There we go. See, it all works out.
Didn't he go overseas? Didn't he? I think he went from the Astros to like Japan or something.
And then and he came back and had a really brief cup of coffee with the Blue Jays that did not go well, and I think that was it for him.
Welcome to the fourth hour of the Herald Report.
I never thought I'd ever get on a podcast and talk about the 2012 Astros. So
I figured. So what the hell?
This is amazing.
This is what we used to do to get through the seasons. We would we would have the 100 lost pool. And so like those of us that were traveling with the team, like the broadcasters, probably not trainers, but anyway, we had our little posse. And so we would then pick the date that they were going to lose their 100th game. And it kept things interesting, so every night, because we were at every single game, home and road. And you get those like competitive juices going because there's like $20 riding on it. It was cool.
Well, we're going to jump into our draft now, and we had a policy where we would wear the same thing on another day because this is taking place another day. I have my Dave Winfield Padres jersey on. Matt's wearing the plaid shirt, his Dave Winfield collection plaid shirt, and then Mike just decided he's not going to do that, so he's wearing a Islanders hoodie. So there's no rules anymore. It is okay. There's no pressure. We have this team assembled. This is the 5-tool guys who have not made it in the Hall of Fame, of course, and or could possibly in the future, of course, as active players. But we try to assemble this in a nice little draft, and I'm sure there's some ones that you like more than others, and some instant feedback. What do you think of some of these lists?
Well, I noticed that there were some non-5-tool players on here. So when I first looked at the list, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't know Grady Sizemore was a 5-tool player. And then I Googled Grady Sizemore 5-tool player. And what came up was Bill James' website that said at age 22, he was a 5-tool player, along with these other players ended up having to fight for their jobs a few years later. So yeah. And Jeff Francoeur was one of them, Corey Patterson, Vaughn Hayes. So for the most part, I think that you included everyone who would be considered a 5-tool player. And I think I know, like, do you want me to tell you right off the bat who I think wins it of these teams? Or are you going to like read off?
No, I think we maybe we'll reveal at the end which team won.
Okay.
But certainly I'd love to hear, or we'd love to hear which of those players you think are just not 5-tool players.
So Grady Sizemore is not. I would say that, the thing is, it's the base running, it's the speed aspect. Mm-hmm. So Aaron Judge really isn't a 5-tool player because he doesn't really have the speed on the base paths, which takes nothing away from the fact that he's like an amazing player. Jose Ramirez. So I immediately thought, well, Jose Ramirez cannot be a 5-tool player because of the speed. And I looked up on StatCast, and he's actually in the 81st percentile for speed in 2022. Not too bad. I mean, considering he's getting on the older side. It's like, okay. So that, 81 is okay, like 90 would be great. So I didn't give him enough credit. And his, so home plate to first base's speed, it was 4.22 seconds in 2022, which ranked like 47th in baseball. Not too bad. So I would keep him on there. I guess I'm a little biased against like, short, kind of a little bit more portly guys and just think that they can't run, but Jose Ramirez clearly can't. Josh Hamilton, not a 5-tool player. Okay. And some of these older guys, like I actually had to look up because I'm actually just not really that well versed in their careers. Alfonso Soriano, definitely a 5-tool player. So I think that a lot of people might, and then Ohtani is more of a 6-tool player because he can pitch. So we don't really know if he's going to run the bases well because he really doesn't have to do that very often. So I don't know if you can call him, but I guess if you're throwing in pitching and you're taking away base running, then he's still 5-tool. It's just different tools.
That's what the person who chose Ohtani tried to argue, is that the pitching will become one of those tools, I believe. But you're right.
I don't know if they argued that. I think they might have argued that he's an exceptional athlete and did play the field in Japan. So we've seen him play the field. I think this is what the person was saying. And
I wonder who it is.
And he's got the arm, to play the defense, and he can play. You can watch clips of him on the YouTube and see him play the field, and he seems to be able to do it.
Okay, and seeing as Matt is defending one of his picks, I will also, on behalf of one of the three people, respectfully argue that in 2008, Grady Sizemore had 33 home runs and 38 stolen bases. Which is why I kind of thought maybe he counted it. I know he wasn't the fastest guy in the league, but that's a pretty good, like a 30-30 season from a center fielder. That's pretty good. That's all. I'm not trying to weigh your decision.
Well, you are. You definitely are. Exactly what you're doing.
Now, Mike,
I'm just trying to give you my rationale why I thought it was an okay pick.
I mean, but when you look back historically, I mean, what did he do the following year? Like, did he do it for more than 1 year?
He had 4 years of at least 2020 in a row.
Okay. All right. I stand corrected. I apologize to Grady Sizemore.
No, that's fine. But but he admittedly did fall off the map after that year that I just said because of knee injuries and stuff. He was pretty much done by the age 26. Like, he fell off quick. The poor guy got hurt and that was it.
I mean, honestly, Eric Davis was just able to do it longer. Had he stayed healthy, he might be considered the best 5-tool player ever in history. Yes, I'm completely biased. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. I grew up a Reds fan. I mean, we used to play softball and we used to hit our mitts on our thighs twice because that's what Eric Davis did. Yep. And let me tell you, I've been covering baseball forever. I get starstruck by no one, but I have worked the Reds Fan Fest over the winter when I'm home hanging with my dad, and he walks in and I'm like, done. Like, it's still the coolest. He's still the coolest guy in the room. And I'm like, I'm standing 10 feet from Eric Davis. So you can't really, I mean, I guess to say like Grady Sizemore, because he had the injuries, can't be remembered as a 5-tool player, but Eric Davis also had a lot of injuries, but there's no doubt about him being a 5-tool player.
No, there isn't.
And is there anyone that you felt we didn't pick that you think was a bit of an omission, or do you think we've pretty much covered everybody? Is there anyone that's glaringly outside that?
No, I mean, nobody comes to mind. I mean, I don't think about 5-tool players all the time, but I think you got everything. Carlos Beltran, I mean, I also think that he's probably one of the best 5-tool players in history. The Astros traded for him in 2004, which was just huge and catapulted them to their postseason run. But before that, they had that hill in center field at Minute Maid Park. I don't know if you're familiar. Okay.
Al's Hill.
I hated it from the minute that I looked at it until the minute that they raised it. I hated it. I used to get in so many fights with colleagues and fans because to me, I don't think something catastrophic has to happen in order for it to be considered a bad thing. Like, you don't actually have to have somebody like hit their chin first or, blow out their knee in order to say, maybe this isn't a great idea. But the people that they had playing center field up until then, like Lance Berkman, Craig Biggio, when they signed Jeff Kent, they moved Craig Biggio to center field.
Yeah.
Not great. So I was so used to seeing guys that really shouldn't be playing that position, like running up that hill and just like closing my eyes. Then they get Beltran. He was like a show horse. He would just jog, and like, it was the easiest thing. I was like, okay, that's what the center fielders are supposed to be doing. He made everything look so effortless, and honestly, one of the best. I hope he gets in the Hall of Fame someday, because he is honestly one of the best players out there for his generation.
We in Toronto were the same way. We got so spoiled for whatever it was with Devon White playing center field. And then they'd get other guys that would come and play center field, and they'd be good players, like, and you'd be like, why isn't everything getting caught really easily on a jog? Oh, right, because they're not as good as he, you know what I mean? You kind of like, oh, it really sets a bar pretty high. I'm not trying to pitch for my team there. I just, it's very...
No,
again,
honestly,
you are, but thank you.
I kind of only remembered then that I picked him on way too.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a team that you watch more than anybody, but I tell people all the time, they make this game look really easy. Baseball is really, really hard, and these players make this thing look so easy. Just when they're running, when they're fielding their positions, how hard those balls are being hit at them. I forget which Reds player about 10 years ago, he got suspended for 3 games, and he watched the games from the press box, and he was like, well, no wonder you're so hard on us. It looks so easy from up here. The balls look so much slower from up here. So they, these center fielders that I say like, oh, Craig Biggio wasn't that good at playing center field. I mean, he was 38 years old and he was playing adequately at the major league level in center field. So I try to remember that too.
Well, it's not all center fielders who make it look easy. Like guys like Ichiro obviously make it look easy. Hey guys. Right. I'm not pitching for my own team, but what's an Ichiro and Mike Trout in center field? Isn't that just?
And people bag on Mike Trout's defense, like, oh, he's not very good. It's like, he's pretty good.
I remember I was his rookie season. I went and saw him play. The Yankees were in town in Anaheim, and I was behind center field wall, and he raced back and he disappeared because he couldn't see from my perspective, and he hit the wall. And it was like a cannon had shot like a cannonball right into that wall. It was the loudest smack. I thought, he's dead. He's got to be dead. The crowd went like, and then a huge. I was like, oh, thank God they cheered because I thought that's it. The way that it just, I couldn't believe it.
The end of a promising career.
He went full blast into that thing, and like you say, that is, and you're just recovering from that is not easy.
Yeah.
And he just right back up.
Yeah, he needs to stay healthy. I mean, it's funny because he's just not very good against the Astros. I've not really seen a lot of Mike Trout being like the greatest player on the planet and everything that they call him. Because when it comes to Houston, he basically just strikes out. It's kind of I just looked up his numbers before we got on this, and just not great in the past few years. But for someone to be just like considered a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer by the time they're like 28 years old at the latest.
Yeah.
It's truly amazing. And when he gets a hold of one of those balls, it is, they go very far.
Yeah. That is a guy who is compact and full contact is insane. Yeah.
And that swing, like his arms are always tucked right. Like he's such a physical marvel. I don't quite understand how it all works, but he sure makes it look easy too.
So I think most of these players are semi-recent. I think probably Reggie Smith is an outlier there. Reggie Smith is going back further than any of these other choices. Did you take a look at some of Reggie Smith's numbers?
I did. And I was like, okay, I can do this. Let me see if I still have it up here. I felt a little embarrassed that I didn't know more about him, but I thought definitely, for his era, for sure. I mean, I look at just, did they do it for a while? And he certainly did. And I'm seeing here that I also Googled Reggie Smith 5 tool. You'd be surprised at things that come up when you just do the 5 and not the tool. Yeah. So Reggie Smith, like it comes up like 5 guys, 5 this, 5 that, but not 5 tool. But no, he definitely, I think, would qualify. He strengthens the team he's on for this.
Yeah, and he's a beloved teammate as well. I think everyone that played with Reggie Smith loves that guy.
He's also like one of the few switch hitters. Like there's like 5 or 6 guys who switch hitters who hit over 300 home runs, and he's one of them. Like he's in pretty rare air.
Yeah, and he played for 17 years.
Yeah,
and so on some really good
at a high level too.
Yeah.
And Matt, do you want to lobby for any of your players since we seem to be quietly doing that?
No, I think that it stands. We are talking about 30-30. I mean, Jose Ramirez I believe he's had a 30-30 season as well. But to the point, I think he may have had some 2020s too. But if you're talking about, have they done it for a long time? A lot of my players are more recent era, and so they may not. And I think with Judge, he did steal 16 bases, last year, but that's not quite enough. It sounds like. I mean that. Same amount as Whit Merrifield last year, Francisco Lindor, Dalton Varsho, but still that would be the one where, you might trip up.
Are you trying not to say Barry Bonds? Like, are you trying to just like Lord Baltimore? Are you trying not to say his name? I feel like you're just.
Oh no, he's the anchor of my team. I mean, you look at Barry Bonds. I mean, look at what he's 7 MVPs, 14 All-Stars, 8 Golden Gloves. I mean, he did a lot. He was a good player.
This is the worst lobby.
I mean, it speaks for itself.
Look at this guy. He played baseball.
Yeah, you remember him.
All right, Alyson. I think we've done a decent job of talking through most of these players, obviously, and some of us have subtly lobbied, some of us more forcefully, and various techniques. What do you think of these 3? If you had to pick a team, which would your choice be?
Okay, well, see that team 3 with Trout, Ichiro, Josh Hamilton, who's my Alfonso Soriano, Reggie Smith. I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, of the players that I don't see as 5-tool players on each team, like who, like the strength of the guys who I do consider 5-tool players. Mm-hmm. So hang on. I mean, I'm leaning toward team 2 because Barry Bonds, for as much as what we all probably feel about him, was like the prototypical 5-tool player for the majority of his career until, all the stuff started later on. And, Mookie Betts, Ohtani. I mean, Judge is like 4.5 tools, and Jose Ramirez, I think I might have to go with that because also longevity, even though some of these guys we don't know, I mean, they could get hurt tomorrow, but Mookie Betts is well into his career.
But do you feel like team 1 just wasn't that great, huh? Even though Eric Davis is on it.
Yeah, the A-Rod thing is really tripping me up. Yeah, it's really hard for me to pick a team that A-Rod is on. Because I'm just not buying any of the numbers because of everything that we do know as factual about him. I'm not buying into all this home runs.
But you're buying into Barry Bonds?
I'm buying into Barry Bonds. I'm buying into the part of Barry Bonds' career before all that happened. So, A-Rod's dabbling in PEDs, he has, I think it started a lot earlier. I think with Bonds, like I do kind of cut off Bonds like at the tail end of his career. But Bonds for those like 10, 12 years when he was like tall and lanky, skinny, fast. I mean, there was not there. It was just, he would have been one of the best players in history with that. I'm not excusing believe me, I'm not excusing any of these guys for any of this stuff, but that's kind of, so I guess team 3 is probably out for me. I think it's team 2.
Yeah. Team 2, that's Matt's team. We do note that team 3 had no cheaters. All just straight up guys, there's a comeback story in there. It's so great to see. I mean, they stayed pretty clean, these guys, but unfortunately it wasn't enough.
Allegedly, right. Yeah.
Okay, just be cool about it, Alyson. I was trying to weave my way into the good guy story, but Matt takes it. And was Bonds first choice in this draft? Was Bonds the first choice?
Oh, A-Rod was.
A-Rod was A-Rod, Bonds to Trout. Wow, that's an interesting path we took there to first round. Thank you, Alyson, for doing this. It seems like it was a hard choice. It was a difficult choice because you had some favorite players on each of those teams as well as some neglected. But I'll tell you something. The fact that you said that Soriano was a 5-tool player was the victory for me. There was some argument about whether he was or not. The defense.
Oh, he was
great. Thank you.
He was underrated. Great player.
Team 3 will take that victory. Mike, what's your victory that you were able to prove Grady Sizemore is worth?
Sure, I'll take it.
Alyson, please come back another time. Maybe we'll do a specific Astros episode. You can challenge us with whatever draft you want us to do and then judge us harshly. That's fine. And we'll get into that. Yeah,
this was fun. Our company, we love Canadians. Oh my God, we love We love our Toronto writers. Oh my goodness. Seriously, we talk about this extensively, like how much we love our Toronto writers. I go on a Toronto station up there, like a sports station, because they're just so much fun. We love it.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. This is so good. And yes, of course, Alyson Footer has been here. We're so lucky to have her join us. I mean, how do we do it? How does anyone accept our invitations, friends? We'll never know. Okay. So, thanks so much, Alyson.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Well, there's our 5-tool judgment. We can all
suck on that.
Take that. She was fantastic. So that was great to have her here, and we appreciate that. I got to say, I'm constantly surprised by the people that say yes because we're 3 dorks, as we say, doing a draft and being judged by people who are way better than us.
Very cool of Alyson to come on. Yes, she's classing the place up a bit.
And speaking of the place, we are of course here at Cabin at the Barber and Gentleman Supply Shop, sponsoring the show. Great setting. If you want to know more about Cabin, you get a chance to. If you're in the area, Toronto, the GTA area, cabingoods.ca. Book yourself an appointment, get a shave, get a haircut, pick up some, grooming apparel, Matt?
Yeah, grooming apparel.
Sweatshirts.
I see some old sewing machines.
But I don't think those are for sale. Okay. Maybe that's just for effect.
That's just a
but like Mike's got great hair. Matt and I think we are difficult haircuts. I'm a difficult haircut because my hair is so straight. That's like cutting a hair, almost like a scarecrow's hair.
Yeah, I think mine's thick, maybe.
Yeah. But I think look at Mike's hair. That guy's gonna have a real shock of full white hair
very very soon.
Tomorrow. But look at the hair, the thickness. Let's talk hair.
It's like a horse.
Let's do a hair draft.
Let's do a hair. Yes. Best hair. Let's do a hair draft. I like that idea.
Yeah, that's good. Best athlete hair. We should do that one.
Yeah. We'll get that judged by
gotta happen,
Jagger back.
Thank you. That's right. This has been great. Another edition for March 1st. This was for This Day in Sports. I'm Sandy Jobin Bevins.
I'm Matt Kippen.
And I'm Mike Shera.
We'll see you on the next day we pick. Huzzah!